Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So can I have the slides up? Or do I need to click it? Do I need to click it? Okay, so this is the fun stuff. This is where we talk about how do we then fund our projects, right? So how do we make money? How do we actually acquire money? Apart from going through the traditional means of actually the banks, government loans. Now, what I'll be sharing with you guys today is that how do we then approach the main people that we do what we do, which is the general public. Yep. So how do we entice them to open up their wallets to give us money to fund our own projects? Right? So reward and equity crowdfunding is not really a phenomena in Europe and America. I think it's slowly being accepted here in this part of the world, especially in Malaysia. I'll share with you what you guys can do and what we can offer as a company with regards to reward and equity crowdfunding. Right, just a brief introduction about Pitchin. We've been around since 2012 during the what we call the dark days or the early days or the Stone Age days of crowdfunding in Malaysia, when nobody knew what crowdfunding was. Yep. It was really, really daunting when we first launched. People just couldn't understand why strangers could come and help other people to do their own projects. Yeah? So we've actually breached that particular difficult times. People are now much more receptive to the idea of crowdfunding. So far, we've done more than $500,000 ringgit, which have helped companies and entrepreneurs to raise money for their own projects. We're actually the first platform in this region to successfully raise a crowdfunding project for an indie festival, which was done in Penang way back last year in June. How many of you guys are aware of Tapau Fest? Started by the Tapau TV guys, right? So one lady at the back, right? And also one guy. So that's actually the largest ever project ever being crowdfunded in Malaysia. 385 people, again, nowhere near Kickstarter numbers, but in Malaysia and also in this particular region, it's probably the highest number of a project being supported by individuals, right? So, other than that, we're also one of the 6 platform operators in Malaysia, which is registered as a market operator to offer equity crowdfunding. Yeah? Now, previously, equity crowdfunding is not legal. If you read the news, there's a Jobs Act in the US, which was passed way back in 2012. Only recently, they're actually legalized it and allow companies to raise money on an equity crowdfunding platform. We beat the Americans to it. We started way back last year in June, right? They've been talking about it for the past 4 years. We did it last year, right? So we did it last year. We're one of the 6 to actually been licensed by the Securities Commission to offer equity crowdfunding. So, for the crowd, for filmmakers, for entrepreneurs, you can either choose reward crowdfunding or start raising money to an equity platform, right? So, what we want to do, or what we brand ourselves in Pitchin is that we want to be known as the home of crowdfunding. So we have reward crowdfunding, and we also now offer equity crowdfunding. Now, just for the sake of knowledge, you probably have heard also that the Securities Commission will be also legalizing peer-to-peer lending, yeah, which is debt equity, or lending, possibly entering debt equity, where you can then crowdfund money to lend to people, to businesses. So that's next after equity crowdfunding, just for your information. So, when we talk about crowdfunding, you just can't not mention about the Pebble Watch. Yeah. The Pebble Watch, the guys behind the Pebble Watch, is the poster boy of crowdfunding. Yeah. Now, the backstory to this is this: when these 2 or 3 guys graduated and they wanted to start building a smartwatch, this is well before smartwatches was made sexy by Samsung and Apple. I really believe that smartwatch was actually revolutionized by these guys, the guys from Pebble. Yep. They validated the market that everyone wants something smart on their watches, apart from just telling time. Yeah. So when they first wanted to launch this project, they went to VCs, went to banks. Nobody wanted to fund them because again, hardware is really, really tough. Yeah. And the failure rate of hardware projects is really high. Yeah? So failure to get money from your traditional funders, the banks and the VCs, what the three guys did was that they went to Kickstarter. Now the first ever Pebble watch raised more than 10 million US dollars. Yep. In Malaysian ringgit, it's nearly 30 to 40 million ringgit Malaysia, right? With no equity being passed over. Now, had some of those VCs actually gave them money, they probably have to give at least half of the company to the VCs, right? But when they went to Kickstarter, no money, no equity was passed over to anyone, right? They got 30 million ringgit Malaysia or 10 million US dollars, and they managed to build the first ever Pebble watch line. I was among one of those 70,000 people who actually invested in that. I actually bought two. Yeah. So the second time they came, now that was what, 2 years ago. A year ago, they came back to Kickstarter. They introduced a second line of Pebble watches called the Pebble Time, which I'm wearing right now. Yeah. So that raised 20 million US dollars from nearly 80,000 people all around the world. Yeah. Now, if you go to Kickstarter, and please do a search, just do a search on Pebble, they are now raising their third line of watches. I'm also putting money there too, right? I'm a sucker for those things, right? So they're raising $1 million, so they went past their funding goal. They're now nearly 10 million with 30 more days to go. Now, I have a feeling that will probably pass over their 20 million funding goal. So when people talk about crowdfunding, people always think about the Pebble watch because they're actually a proven example of how you could actually get the crowd with you funding your dream to see a product such as the Pebble watch being done by the crowd. Yeah? So now for those who have heard me before this speaking, you would know that every presentation that I do would have some Liverpool identification to it, right? So today, you guys are lucky. Not only you see Liverpool on the slides, I'm wearing my Liverpool jersey too, right? So the first thing I ask people is this: is crowdfunding right for you? One thing which I've learned during the last 4 years here in Malaysia is that whilst people are quite excited about crowdfunding, they don't realize the hard work that needs to be done in terms of running a crowdfunding project. It's not easy. It's not magical. Just because you put a project on Pitchin or Kickstarter for that matter, there's no magical, unicorn prancing around giving you money, right? You need to work very hard. And that's why the first thing I ask people is that, do you think crowdfunding is really right for you? Now, I'll share with you what typical Malaysians think about crowdfunding in the beginning. First of all, they fear that putting their ideas on the crowdfunding platform will mean that people will steal your idea, and that's why they hesitate. Second, and this is something which I can't help you, I probably need hours of coffee with you to get you feel confident about yourself. But a lot of Malaysians think that if I were to put my project on Pitchin or any crowdfunding platform for that matter, and if I fail, imagine the embarrassment of people not liking my idea. And again, it's too bad because you know what? Not all of our ideas are great ideas. To us, it's probably great, but to some, it's not. But the great thing about crowdfunding is this: it's validation. Yeah. So you don't really have to spend a lot of money yet before you build something. Like for the Pebble watch, when they first did it, they did the prototype. They did not came up with 1,000 Pebble watches. They did the prototype and then sold the idea to people who then crowdfunded it to an extent of 10 million US dollars. So that's the whole idea of crowdfunding. Yeah, you validate your idea. So since we're in Creative 2016, and I'm talking to the film, what they call ecosystem, I'd just like to actually focus the next few slides basically on the film ecosystem. Now, if you're a filmmaker, I think the first few things that you need to ask yourself are these. Yeah. First of all, is your film interesting? Obviously, all of us think it is, right? Right. But you have to put yourself in the shoes of people who are not part of it. Would they be willing to come in? Yeah. Is the film exciting enough for them to actually come in and be part of it? And later I'll show you some examples of how some filmmakers actually manage to crowdfund millions of US dollars from crowdfunding platform. Now, second, most importantly is this. Do you already have a crowd with you? Do you have a fan base? If it's just you, your friends, you probably won't have enough crowd to actually crowdfund you, right? So if you don't have a base right now, how fast can you develop this base before you start your crowdfunding project? Yeah? The third thing is, are your goals realistic? Right? Now, one thing about crowdfunding is this. People who are watching your projects are smart people. Now, if they know that this particular project would need only X amount of money, and if are asking less for it or more than it, then they would actually decide whether they want to invest with you or not. Yeah? So if they think that what you're asking is too low, in the end they'll think that even if I were to give you this money, you probably won't be able to actually develop or finish this particular product. Now a great example is this. Now the cooler coolers. Any one of you have heard of the cooler coolers? At one time they were the highest ever crowdfunding project, beating Pebble Watch, the first Pebble Watch, but now Pebble Watch has claimed back the throne. Now the cooler coolers is actually a cooler. Personally, I was so disappointed that at one time that was the highest ever project crowdfunded in the world, because it's just a freaking cooler, yeah, with built-in Wi-Fi, sound system, and all that. And and to me, if that is the highest ever crowdfunding project, then I think we're just doomed. Yeah. So I'm just happy that that Pebble came back and took over the throne. Now the cooler, they raised $15 million US. But you know what, guys? They failed in the end. Despite $15 million, they failed to deliver their project. Yeah, and that's why your funding goals need to be realistic, not too low that you can't deliver your project. Yeah. Now, you also need to think about what your supporters get in return. Yeah. So you need to be creative. And I'll share with you some of those other projects we've done so well in terms of their creativity, coming up with rewards for their supporters. Last but not least, and this is very, very important, do you have the willingness to work throughout your funding duration? If you're funding for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, are you willing to work during that whole duration, ensuring that you actually get funded? Yeah? So momentum is very, very important in a crowdfunding project. So, just like to share with you guys some of the highest crowdfunding film projects ever done in the world. Out of the 5, 3 of them was done on Kickstarter, yeah, possibly the biggest, largest crowdfunding platform in the world. 2 of them was done by Indiegogo. Now, the highest ever project was the Mystery Science Theater. It's not really a film project, yeah? It's a TV series, yeah? So they were cancelled, they came back and they did 13 series. They managed to raise 5.76 million from 48,000 people, the highest ever. Veronica Mars raised 5.7 from 91,000 people. 2/3 of them probably male because they wanted to see Kristen Bell on the big screen. Yep. So Veronica Mars, 5.7 million, 91,000 people, the highest ever project where we see individuals coming in supporting, even bigger than Pebble. Now Pebble raised 20 million from 80,000 people. Veronica Mars, 91,000 people all around the world giving money and accumulating 5.7 million. Super Troopers 2 on Indiegogo, 4.5. Wish I Was Here, which I actually funded, Zach Braff's movie. He raised 3.1 million, also on Kickstarter. And then Laser Team, from 37,000 people, they raised 2.4 million US dollars. Now these are film projects which have raised successfully on crowdfunding platforms, taking money from people all over the world. Yeah? So later I'll share with you how they did it. So this is the Bring Back Mystery Science Theatre 3000. Right now holds the record of the highest ever film and video project in the world. Yeah. Veronica Mars is also available on Astro. I think I just caught it last 2 weeks. Yeah. So they were funded, bankrolled by the people. Yeah. So 91,000 people all around the world came together and gave 5.7 million to Rob Thomas for him to actually produce Veronica Mars. Now, Veronica Mars, if you don't know, was a TV series. It got cancelled, but they had a cult following. They then managed to actually do a film on the TV series. So let's look at some stats. Yeah. Now, first of all, like I said, crowdfunding is not easy. It looks easy. When you look at how Mystery Theatre, Veronica Mars raised that amount of money, people would think that if they can do it, I can too. Yeah? But there's a science behind it. It's just not putting your project out there and then hoping that people will come. There needs to be work to be done, a lot of work to be done. It's not easy, I can tell you this. Now, look at the stats on Kickstarter. Now, there were 55,000 projects on Kickstarter, just basically on films and video. The success rate is even below 50%. It's 40%-ish. Yeah. Now, out of that 55,000 projects, only 20,000 projects were successful. Yeah. Now, in terms of money being raised, over 1 million, only 6 projects on Kickstarter. Yeah. So, a lot of us, we talk about the Veronica Mars, the Mystery Science Theatre, but the others did not do that well. Yeah. It's because they did not put a lot of effort. And again, those few questions which I asked you, those are the same questions that you need to ask even before you put yourself on the crowdfunding platform. If you're not able to fulfill any of those questions which I asked you, then you probably won't be able to do it on a crowdfunding platform. But if you do, I think the rewards are there. And the numbers shows in terms of the projects which are successful in terms of raising, the numbers are there. Yeah. So the next question which I want to pose to you, potential filmmakers who are looking at crowdfunding as a means to raise money, yeah, is either do you want to do reward or you want to do equity. Now, let's do a short deep dive into the definitions of both reward and equity. Reward is simple. It's really you're giving back in terms of a product or a service in return for money from the actual supporters. Yeah. Well, for ECF, what you're doing is that you're giving equity to your supporters. So depending on how much they give, you will then give in return a percentage of your company. Yeah. So that's the main difference between reward and equity. There are pros and cons to both platforms. I will share with you which one, the pros and cons for both platforms for you. Now, let's look at the reward crowdfunding platform. Now, apart from the things which I mentioned just now, what makes it so exciting for people to actually support a reward crowdfunding platform project is the rewards that you, the project owner, gives out to your potential supporters. Have a look at what Veronica Mars offered to their supporters. Now, for $10,000 US, which was actually claimed by one of their investors or supporters, is that that particular person actually got a role, a speaking role, right? And the speaking role was that your check, sir. That was it. Yeah. And you know what? Just by doing that, you probably now have an IMDb list, right? So, for $10,000 US, you get an acting role in Veronica Mars, and someone did. I probably need to watch the movie again just to see which particular person did that line. So, $500 US, you'll get Kristen Bell herself will record a 50-second messaging for you, for your phone. 1,000 gets you 2 tickets to the red carpet. 2005, you get to be featured background in the movie. Yeah, so you get the idea, right? So you need to be clever. You need to be creative in terms of how do you entice people to actually put in money. And again, it's really bringing people within your own community, and that's what Veronica Mars did. From their own rewards, they make it so exciting that people wanted to be part of the movie. They feel that they're part of the movie. Yeah, it's just not you, the filmmaker, asking, give me money, give me money, give me money. But let's do this together. Let's get you be part of my movie. That's how Veronica Mars did, and that's how the others did too. Now, the only movie which I've supported, because I really was late for Veronica Mars. By the time Veronica Mars finished, was only then I found they were actually raising money, so I was too late for that. But for Zach Braff, I actually supported this particular project. I pledged $40 US. I was supposed to get a T-shirt. You know what? I never did get a T-shirt. Yeah. But then I love Zach Braff, so I'm not going to hold it against him. Yeah, he's a funny guy. So I supported by giving $40 US to Zach, and that $40 is part of that 3.1 million that he actually crowdfunded from nearly 40,000 people all around the world. Yeah. So this is the only movie project which I've supported so far. Yeah. And again, you support because you like the story, you like the people behind it, and you want to be part of that community. Yeah. Now let's look at equity crowdfunding platform. It's a new platform. It's legalized in Malaysia recently. Now, the difference between ECF and the RCF is this: the ECF allows you guys to also enjoy an upside to the film. Yeah. Now, imagine, say, one of the independent film projects like Upin Ipin or Boy Boy Boy, right? Raising money to an equity crowdfunding platform, giving out, say, 10% equity to you guys here. And you guys decide that I'm going to go and support this particular film. Now, any rights, merchandising, and all that can also be enjoyed by you guys too. Yep. Which you can't if you're doing a reward crowdfunding platform. So reward, you get something back in return, but for equity, you actually have rights over the things which later will be produced. So you could actually enjoy on the ticketing, you could enjoy on merchandising, but it depends. Yeah? It depends on the filmmaker whether they want to go for reward or equity. Yeah? So equity crowdfunding in Malaysia is largely new. We just legalized it last year, September. We're first in Asia, second if you include Australia and New Zealand in the Pacific realm. Yeah. So we're first in Asia to actually do this, legalize this. There are 6 platforms that is recognized by the Securities Commission. You only need to know about us. Let's not talk about the other 5. Yeah. So pitchin.my, go. So we offer both RCF and ECF. So depending on what your appetite is, whether you want to do reward and equity, will be there for you. So have a look. Yeah. Now, just like to share with you some of the rules for ECF. Very important before you decide whether to use this route to actually raise money. Now, the rules are, the company must be incorporated in Malaysia. You could still have a company in Singapore or in the States, but you need to incorporate a company in Malaysia, which later you can channel that money outside of Malaysia. Perfectly okay. Yeah. Now, the paid-up capital must be less than 5 million ringgit Malaysia. Yeah. You can raise up to 3 million in the first year and following years, but maximum you can raise is 5 million ringgit. Yeah. Obviously, you need to disclose about the company and the purpose of raising funds. So if you're raising funds to actually pay for your film, you say that. We also need to look at your financials, meaning that you need to do some financial disclosure. Depending on how much you actually raise, there probably needs to be auditors coming in. If you're raising more than $500,000, there needs to be an audited financial statement. If it's less than that, just a management, account is okay. Yeah. So if you're looking at raising money for your short film project, yeah, so you don't need a lot of money, maybe less than $500,000, you can just do that with your management account. Yeah. You can't cheat, so you can't cheat on me, right? So if you're doing it on Pitchin, you can't go elsewhere. You've got to stay with me. You get to stay married with me until we fail or succeed. Yeah. So you can't do multiple fundraising on multiple platforms. You do one. If you fail, then you can go somewhere else. Yeah. Obviously, you need to do an offer document. Imagine this is just like a mini IPO. You're raising money, so it's like an IPO. There is an offer document. Yeah. Last but not least, there will be shareholders in your company. Now, under the Companies Act, right now, all private limited company is actually maximized at 50 shareholders. Yeah, that's the law. But because it's crowdfunding, what the Securities Commission has advised us is that you can circumvent this legally. Yeah? I'm not telling you how to cheat, but legally, you can circumvent this by using our nominee company. So if you have like thousands of people wanting to support you, the 1,000 people will then be parked under the nominee company operated by Pitchin. Yeah? So you can then have more people supporting your projects. Amounts and fees, very important. People want to know, so Sam, how much do you take from us? Obviously, I'm not doing this for free. I love you guys, but I still need to make money. Now, if it's reward crowdfunding, what we see generally globally is that platform will charge you between 4 to 25%. Some platform operators do charge up to 25%. Yeah? And again, some platforms actually operate either on a flexible model, which means that even though you're raising ringgit, but if you only manage to raise $500,000, they would allow you to take the money. Indiegogo does that. You can choose it, whether flexible or nothing. Yeah. Now, for us in Pitchin, if it's a commercial project, especially film, which we deem as commercial, we think it has to be all or nothing. Unless you can tell the crowd that I'm raising $500,000 here, but then I'm raising outside of the platform, I'm raising other money from other institutional investors, then we can give you that money even though you've not reached your goal. Yeah? So we'll have a talk with you if you do that. Now with the ECF, the laws are much more strict. It's all or nothing, meaning that if you want to raise $1 million, you have to reach that goal. Even if you're short by $1, we won't give you back the money. Yeah? So the money will be passed back to all your investors. Now the fees for ECF, largely when we see globally, people charge entrepreneurs between 5 to 8%. And some of the platform operators will charge you a listing fee too. Yeah? So again, shop around, talk to the platform operators and find one which is suitable for your project and for yourself. Yeah? Now, when you look at investors, ECF investors, there are 3 types of ECF investors, and each investors cannot, some investors cannot invest more than what they should. For example, retail investors in Malaysia who wants to invest on a company raising money on Pitchin equity crowdfunding, you can raise maximum 5,000 ringgit and up to 50,000 ringgit within a year. So that's for retail investors. Yeah. For angel investors, you can invest up to a maximum of 500,000 ringgit Malaysia within a 12-month period. For those deep pocket guys, the sophisticated people, they're free to invest how much money they want, how often and frequent they want. Yeah. Now the reason for this is that the Securities Commission wants to ensure investor protection. Yeah, so they want to protect retail and also angel investors, and that's why there is a cap in terms of what they want to do. Now, the other thing, which again would be very interesting for some of you guys in the room, you may not be filmmakers here, but you may be financiers. Yeah, you may have your own funds that you run where you then invest in the films. Now, what you can do is that let's have a chat. You can actually raise money on Pitchin for your own microfund. It's called a microfund, but there's no limitation to the amount of fund you can raise on Pitchin for your own fund, for your own VC fund. The only rule that needs to be fulfilled is that your VC fund, your VC firm needs to be registered with the Securities Commission, and secondly, you need to identify which particular sector this funding will be used for. Yeah. So, for example, if you're a VC registered with the Securities Commission, you want to raise your funds. You want to raise your funds on Pitchin. You tell us what kind of sector you want to invest in. You then put it on Pitchin, and then people from either angels or sophisticated investors can then invest in that fund for you to invest in films in Malaysia or any part of the world. Yeah. All right. Reward or equity is really for you to decide. The pros for the equity, for reward is that you maintain ownership of your film 100% because you only give rewards to your supporters. The con is that for your supporters, they may not enjoy an upside to it. They get something, a t-shirt, they get to act, but if this film do well, make millions in box office, you don't get anything from that, right? So that's the con in terms of the supporter. Now for the ECF, the pros is that supporters enjoy an upside to it. If this film do well, it gets merchandise and all that, you get an upside to that too. The con to ECF is that for you filmmakers, you need to give away some equity and control to your supporters. Yeah. So both platforms, there are pros and cons to it. I'm coming to the end now. Last but not least, again, what's important is really the planning. Yeah. Planning will actually dictate whether you succeed or not using a crowdfunding platform. When you do a crowdfunding project, it really takes planning. You can't come to Pitchin, come to see me and say, Sam, I want to do this, I want to go live tomorrow. You will fail. I'll guarantee you that. Yeah? The projects which have succeeded on Pitchin, for that matter, or any crowdfunding platform for that matter, had planned 30, 60 days before they went live. Yeah? So I can't really emphasize the important part about planning. Yeah? Last but not least, yeah, as Yoda's famous word is, yeah, there is not try not, yeah. It's either there is no do or do not, and there is no try. You have to do it, yeah. So a lot of people talk about it, and in the end they don't. I wish to see a lot of local filmmakers taking advantage of this particular option to raise funding. I think it's so exciting that you're going out to the public, to the crowd to ask for money. You're not using your traditional means of actually asking money from government and from traditional finances. You're actually going out, getting support from the very same people who are buying your movie tickets. So this is my contact number, contact email, sorry. Do drop me an email. We're based in Bangsa. Let's have coffee. I'm really, really eager to get someone from the film fraternity here in Malaysia. I actually got someone there who just approached me today. They wanted to do something, so I'm looking forward to that. But I really want to see the local ecosystem using crowdfunding as a means for you guys to validate your film. Yeah. So that's it from me. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, I'll be here till 4 o'clock, and we can always chat. Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, big round of applause, please, for Shamsul.